A little bit of a different direction today on the podcast. Welcome back, Paul Skenes podcast. We are talking baseball today. I've got coming up Bryce jumping on the pod for the first time and kind of talk about just the Royals, the Cardinals, baseball in general a little bit, and just kind of get into everything that's happened this first month and a half of the season. And really excited, definitely enjoy talking Chiefs football, but baseball definitely one of my favorite sports as well. Grew up playing as a kid, and same thing with Bryce. So I'm excited to get him on the podcast and let us talk, especially with the Royals, how good the Royals are doing right now. They're half game out of first place currently, so definitely excited to jump in. And so, if you follow along on the podcast, and maybe the baseball's not your thing, wait till the next one comes out. Go ahead and hop on over there. But if you're rocking with me, smash that subscribe. Hit that bell notification so you know whenever we drop a podcast or drop a video. Of course, all kinds of stuff, film reviews and different things like that. And I got plenty to say about the Cardinals. I definitely got plenty to say about the Cardinals. We didn't talk a ton about the Cardinals, me and Bryce in our conversation, but it's rough. It's rough to be a Cardinals fan, It's even rougher to be a Cardinals fan in Kansas City while the Royals are on fire right now. At least it seems like it. Seems like the Royals have been awesome, and shout out to Bobby Witt, man. Bobby Witt, that guy is he's a ball player. Let me tell you, every single aspect of the game. You can run the bases, plays defense like a madman. Great hitter, hits for contact, hits for power. And it's good to see. And on the Cardinals side of things, it's tough, man. It's tough to see the trades that have went down the last few years, what John Mozeliak has done with this team. Watching Ollie manage this team, it's been rough. And, it seems like it's getting a little rougher. Me and Bryce, we're going to talk about Wilson Contreras and his broken arm, that kind of situation, as that one was rough. It was rough to watch, first of all, just to see the video of it. And how quickly he reacted. I mean, you got a slugger like J.D. Martinez up at the plate and is able to, that man can hit the ball a long way, right? So a lot of power generated into that swing. And honestly, on contact, it didn't even look that bad. It honestly did not look that bad, I didn't think. But the reaction that Contreras had, and Contreras, I think it's going to be about 8 to 12 weeks he'll be out of action for the Cardinals. And right as he was having a pretty good start to the year. So we'll see what happens with that with the St. Louis Cardinals. But trending, #FireMo, John Mozeliak, man. It's tough. I wouldn't mind seeing the Cardinals move on from John Mozeliak, honestly, at this point, at any point. I think Ollie is a little bit harder to move on from, immediately. Obviously, you're in the middle of the season, and you can't just dump your manager like that a month and a half into the season. I mean, you could. We've seen crazier things happen, but might as well, continue it going. I mean, we'll see where we go from here. The Cardinals at the current moment, if I still have this pulled up, are at a grand total of 15 wins with 23 losses, 8 games out of first place in the NL Central, with the NL Central leading Brewers at 23-15. That the Cardinals have dropped the first 2 of the series to in Milwaukee. They'll play again on Saturday, obviously, and finish out the series on Sunday. So see what the Cardinals can do with the Brewers the rest of the weekend. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into a conversation with Bryce and see what he's got to say about these Royals. All right, for the first time, I would like to welcome in Bryce from Smithville. If you listen to Vern after the game with the Royals, my man's been on there a couple of times, popping in. But introduce Bryce to the pod. First time on the Papa Show Knows podcast. Actually was featured on the Schrobanks show at one point in time, but got Bryce in to talk a little bit of baseball today. So what's up, Bryce?
Hey, what's going on, man? Thanks for having me, and be fun to talk some baseball.
Yes, sir. So obviously a lot of excitement surrounding the Royals right now, and kind of a big part of, just what I know you're extremely excited about what the Royals have been doing these last few weeks, and especially the first month and a half of baseball now. And looks like the Royals are a pretty strong team.
Yeah, it's exciting again. I feel like all the people that put their KC gear away 10 years ago are finally dusting it off and taking it from the cellar and the attic, and putting the caps back on a little bit here and there. I see in the city, but yeah, it's just fun, man. Fun to have something to follow, and it's good to see these boys in blue play well.
That's a fact, and it is fitting, right? Because we just went to the K a couple weeks ago and went to that game against the Orioles where they handed out the 2014 ALCS championship ring, and kind of symbolic a little bit, right? To be 10 years later and to really start kind of building something. Obviously, you have a superstar in Bobby Witt Jr. that I'll say we as in the Kansas City Metro has just heard about since he was drafted first round pick in 2019 for the Royals. And, to finally see him flourish, 30 home runs, 30 stolen bases last year. I mean, that was the first big promotion of the year for the Royals, giving away that bobblehead of celebrating. If I'm not mistaken, the only Royals player to go 30-30.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, he's one of like what, six other shortstops I think in history. And yeah, he's up there in elite company. But yeah, just cool to see also the Royals kind of celebrate that in a sense. I mean, I know it could be just a bobblehead, but I think it just kind of shows, like you said, the superstar mentality and the caliber of player he is. And yeah, I'm glad that we locked him down for the time being and for the future ahead. So
Yeah, no, that's a fact. I'm gonna look up his contract real quick because I honestly, if you unless you know off the top of your head exactly what the contract details were.
it was off the top I know of is
Okay, I
it's
got you. I
11
got it right here.
years.
Yeah, 11 years, 288.7 million guaranteed.
Hmm.
Absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's also nice too because he has a protection no trade clause in there. So um definitely here has the same vibe of like, the way the Chiefs locked down Mahomes. So it's nice to actually have a valuable asset to cheer on for the future and just enjoy it. I mean, we've had Salvi for 18 years as well, but it's just good to see that we have two good guys that are committed to Kansas City and want to win and play here. So
Yeah, you've got your long-term captains kind of winding down his career, and now you've got your future captain. I mean, Bobby Wood is definitely going to
hmm
be that guy for, like we just said, 11 years. He's signed to. So,
hmm
and speaking of that, Bobby Witt, what is his age? I know he's still very young, 23 years
24.
old. He'll turn 24 June 14th.
Okay. Yeah.
Crazy.
Also quick shout out, happy birthday, Salvi. Turned 34 today.
Oh yeah, yeah, he did. Um,
So
Royals in comeback fashion too on Friday night.
man, yeah, I think I sent you that message earlier, kind of afterwards, or I think it was like right after it happened. But yeah, like I haven't yelled like that after a score since, the Chiefs. I'm usually pretty vocal during, I mean, even regular season games with them, but like playoffs and yeah, it just felt good. It was like, of all people too, he's kind of had like I mean, he knows what it takes. He was with Baltimore last year in the playoff run with them. He's been there before, but for him to just kind of cap it off and hopefully keep that momentum going after that tonight it was special. It was exciting.
Yeah, talking about Adam Frazier, with the Royals. Yeah, absolutely. No, it was a huge. I was kind of halfway watching the Royals game, somewhat paying attention while I was playing the game. I was actually playing the show while I was kind of
Oh
halfway,
yeah.
yeah, halfway watching the game. So, and I happened to turn around like right. I heard the crack of the bat and I turned around and just seen the ball flying towards the right field. Ended up being a home run. Quite a stark difference between my team as I am a St. Louis Cardinals fan, as most of you know if you follow this podcast, and wrote about the Cardinals a little bit. This is actually the first time I've talked baseball on the pod, so I'm excited, and I was excited to get you on here just to talk about baseball, just since I haven't really had the chance and haven't had the time to like delve in to really get, enough. And obviously, me and you were texting about this earlier, but it's hard to pay attention 162 games, especially when your team sucks. I mean, it's crazy, and I said this to you too earlier of just I never would have expected to see a time where the Chiefs are coming off back-to-back World Series and the Cardinals finished in last place last year and are currently in last place as well, and losing two straight to the Brewers to start and in just terrible fashion, really. Um,
Mhm.
the first night, Sonny Gray, the best pitcher for the Cardinals, comes in, 3 runs in the first inning, really went downhill from there. I didn't really catch most of the first half of the game, but I kind of paid attention towards the end. It was a 9-1 when I tuned into the game. Milwaukee went up to 11-1 by the time that I sat down. And so 11-2, I think was the final score in Milwaukee. So it's been tough with the Cardinals. Big time
Mhm.
difference, like I said, between the Royals and the Cardinals this year. And, either way, I mean, it's good to see the Royals flourishing, and we'll see what the Cardinals end up doing. But personally, I mean, I don't know. The Cardinals are on a downward swing until they want to decide to do something with either a general manager or a manager. I don't know if mid-season is time to do anything about it. But the fact that the Cardinals doubled down on both and re-signed them for longer terms right before the season started, I mean, I think every
Uh,
Cardinals fan is questioning what the hell is going on in St. Louis.
I didn't even know that. You
Yeah.
didn't. Well, I guess I just haven't followed that, but that's yeah. I
Like,
definitely feel
well,
you
like I said in
because
our text exchange, it's like it sucks to watch your team not only suck, but then turn around and double down on their bad decisions. It's insane.
yeah, yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised you said that just because I didn't know. But for somebody as a lifelong fan as yourself, I can understand the feeling. It was kind of towards the end of like how was it yeah, I tend to just forget that whoever I forgot the last GM, the Royals. I know
Dayton Moore,
sounds blade or it sounds Dayton Moore. Yeah, it's like you know he led us through those like glory years, those two
hmm
years that were just fantastic. I mean, I want to say that the team kind of started to build steam, mid 13, and then they caught that run into 14, and then turn around and do the exact same thing in 15, and then to retain for the most part the squad 16. But then it just felt like after that it was like, oh, here's an all-star, there's an all-star, here's a gold glove, there's a gold glove to everybody else in the league. And it kind of gives me those vibes with you talking about the management team in St. Louis, just because it's like it just felt like he just kind of did what he needed to do and then he gave up and adios, have fun.
well, and then especially with the Royals, I totally get it, but the Alex Gordon deal was one of the silliest things I think the Royals have ever done. They were able to keep Salvi, and granted, Hosmer was a big, you know, they got out of the Hosmer business at the right time, right? He went to, I think, San Diego right after that, right? And signed that big deal, really amounted to nothing. But you also had Moose, you had Lorenzo Cain. Lorenzo Cain was solid with the Brewers after that for,
Mm-hmm.
quite a few years. And then
Yeah.
Moose is still in the league right now, isn't he?
Yeah, Moose is I believe he's a Chicago White Sox, but he actually, I looked into it the other day, start of the season, he got let go. It was either start of
Gotcha.
spring training or start of season, they let him go. But yeah, he was kind of withering away there in good old Windy City, I guess, outside. But yeah, I mean, it's like
He played
the
with the Angels last year.
oh, he did go to the Angels.
Yeah, I don't, oh man. Yeah, he was.
Was he even a White Sox, or am I thinking of somebody else?
No, I think you're thinking of Benintendi because he was
Oh
with the
yeah,
Angels and the Rockies last year, spent 3 years in Cincinnati before that, and then the 2 years in Milwaukee after leaving Kansas City.
yeah. I was gonna say I remember Milwaukee and Cincinnati. I just kind of like lost track
Yeah,
after that, just because it happens. I think
no, that's
that's what
fair.
it is. Chicago, yeah, it was Benintendi, and then we also have what's his name? Keller, Brad
Brad
Keller.
Keller. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, he pitched against the Cardinals about a week ago or so. I do remember that.
Yeah,
I think I texted you about that too, asking if Brad Keller was one of those guys, one of those
yeah,
former
came back
Royals.
from Tommy John. Yeah, I don't even. I don't think. Yeah, he definitely wasn't a former Royal. Like during that time, I don't believe it was more or less like I think he came in around. It could be 18,
Oh,
it could
yeah,
be
he wasn't a part of
19.
those World Series
Yeah,
teams.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay, yeah. But
yeah.
no, it was. I mean, he wasn't all that great, but um,
I think,
yeah, you know.
we were having a conversation about earlier just about kind of that group, and I think Brad Keller was the other guy I was thinking of. You get
Hmm.
Dylan Lynch or Daniel Lynch. Am I getting that
Daniel
wrong?
Lynch, yeah.
Daniel Lynch, thank you. I got that wrong earlier too.
Hmm.
But Brady Singer, there are kind of
Hmm.
all of those guys that the Royals have brought in the last few years, drafting for pitching, and it looks like Singer's starting to
Hmm.
kind of like really work out, but it seems like those other guys, the Royals just. But it's an MLB problem, I think. There's not a lot of good development pitching wise.
Hmm. No, I agree. It's tough. Like with pitchers, it's like you're not always lucky to draft like a number one, like what's that kid, Skeen or
Paul Skenes, he will make
oh,
his. We're recording this Friday night, I guess technically early Saturday morning, this late game with the Royals, but um,
mhm,
Paul Skenes will make his MLB debut today
today.
with the
That's
Pirates.
awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, it's always one of those things where it's like I feel like pitching is the hardest thing to kind of. I feel like it has its ways about like development, coming in at a young age, coming into a pro system, but it's kind of like when you get one, it's like you've struck a gold mine in a sense. But no, I mean I totally agree. And then it's also bringing them into a faster game now on the professional level. Like I
That's
can't
a
sit here
fact.
and necessarily give you a fact if there's a pitch clock in college, but last time I checked, I don't believe there is. So it's a different I don't know mentality coming into pros now. I mean, yeah, given like pitch clock hasn't been here for 5 years or anything. But I feel like with pitching nowadays, it's like you draft these guys coming in young. Well, that's something else that they have to adjust to, and the game got a lot faster. So.
No, you're absolutely right.
But yeah, definitely hard to come by as good pitching.
It does look like 22nd. 20 seconds is what NCAA has.
Oh, 20 seconds. Interesting.
Yeah, 20-second pitch clock.
And then what are we? What's the majors?
Hold on. I almost want to say it's 15, but
That's
it
what
might
I
be
was
20
saying.
also. I could be wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah, 15-second timer. Yeah.
I would say it feels fast because I was watching the game earlier. It's like they panned to the outfield right before the pitch, and like it felt like he had just thrown the
Hmm.
ball, received it back, and then like next thing you know, it's like 8 seconds left on the clock, and I'm just like, man,
Yeah.
that's kind of a quick turnaround, man. Like if you're not in that mentality, you don't know how to set yourself up properly. I mean,
Hey, everybody
that's
has
I
to pitch
mean,
like Mark
it,
Burley
it
in 2024. You remember Mark Burley? That dude was so fast. Man would get the
mm-hmm.
ball, turn around, and start pitching immediately. Like, gave you no room to breathe. And
uh
it does somewhat take out of a little bit of a, I'm showing my age there, but it does kind of take away a little bit of an element of kind of pitching, pitchers being able to kind of psych batters out of just, okay, it take a long time to throw this next pitch, and there's a little bit quicker, the timing or whatever. So I almost think that
mm-hmm.
might be a disadvantage to pitchers to a point, and it's just the game that we're in now because we, like we kind of touched on is, pitching is just such a it's difficult, it's
Mm-hmm.
difficult, and you see a lot of these games that are very high scoring. I mean I mean, let me not give too much credit to the Cardinals. They scored 2 runs tonight, but it was 11 to
Yeah.
2. The Brewers put up a ton of offense, but then you also still have the games like the Royals had, and they played a 2-1 game.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, what the night before they put up like 10 or 11 runs, I want to say, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Uh, First game of the series, 10-4 last night
10 to
for all
4, yeah.
bids.
Okay.
So yeah, it's good to see. But it's to me, it's like those are great games. Like whether in baseball in general, like for anybody, But it's like to me, the games that are won like tonight, those are the ones that like really kind of really set the tone, and I feel like are you know those are more electrifying. I feel like more like confidence boosting for whatever team, regardless of it. It's just so
Oh,
that's
that's
just
a
a little
fact,
bit.
especially how they won tonight. I mean, the
Yeah.
2-run home run down in the right field corner. And okay, this is one thing that, you'll be with me on this, but this is one thing I argue about baseball all the time. Baseball is the most exciting sport because there's about only to me, MMA is the only other sport to where the whole game can hinge on one moment. The whole,
Hmm.
just like a fight, the whole fight can hinge on one moment. You throw an overhand right and knock a dude clean out. That's it. It's over, right?
Hmm.
You can
Hmm.
be down in the bottom of the ninth by 3 runs, have the bases loaded, down 2 strikes. You're one pitch away from winning the game, but you're also one pitch away from losing the game. There's no other
Hmm.
sport you can compare that. I mean, at that point, you're down 3 scores. In football, you can't do that. You can't be down 3 scores and throw one touchdown pass to miraculously win the game and walk off,
Hmm.
when you got 1 second left in the game. Basketball,
Hmm.
same thing. You can't shoot a 6 point play on the last second
Hmm.
and come back and win, right? And
Hmm.
in baseball has that. I mean, in that moment, even if it's one hit in the gap and it's a bases clearing double, you got to tie a game where you were one strike away from finishing that
Hmm.
game off. And tonight was one of those nights with the Royals. The Angels were up by a run, and Adam Frazier hits that 2-run home run, and all of a sudden, the whole dynamic of the game has changed.
Everything. Yeah, everything. You have a good point there. Like really good point actually, just as far as just the difference among the sports. It's crazy to think about. It's like you know, yeah, like literally everything come down to just your last
Hmm.
option, your last at bat, your last out, last pitch, anything. And
Hmm.
then like yeah, like you said, just the whole aspect of it can change. And to me, it's like I don't know, it's it's unlike anything, in some games, especially when your team's on the other end of it. But nobody wants to be on the end of the losing stick there at the end. But either way, it's gratifying. It's nice.
Yeah, no, that's totally a fact. So you've been following the Royals very closely this whole season, and
Mm.
just want to kind of get your take and your feel on exactly where you think the Royals go from here. Where do you think what is your projection for the rest of the year? Because we're sitting at what, May 11th now. You've gotten to see this team quite a bit. They're 24-16, half game out of first place. You got the Guardians at 24-15. The Twins are right there with the Royals at 23-15. Then you got the Tigers at 19-19, and then a team that doesn't even need to be mentioned down there in the cellar, even though the Cardinals lost 2 out of 3 games to them. So, what's your what's your outlook on the Kansas City Royals for the rest of 2024?
Um, well, I feel like obviously, as you've said before, I listen to a lot of Vern. He makes really good points to just kind of like be level headed about just the season in general, the team in general, players, staff, coaching, all that, which I really appreciate because there's a lot of people that I don't know. I want to say, as far as like Kansas City fans, they get a little like I'll say on a daily basis, they're hot and cold about everything, and it kind of like it disheartens me a little bit because it's like I said in the beginning, it's like these are the same people that throw all their gear up into the attic or the cellar, and now you want to dust it off and you want to come talk about what you think and it's like, well, I'll take that with a grain of salt here and there. And I listen to the people that call in the text messages on Vern's show all the time, and some of it is actually ridiculous. And I'm just like, this is what we're talking about, or this is he'll even say it too. It's like this is where we're going. It's like, but as far as my prediction, it's one of those things where it's still too early in. I mean, what 40 games into the season right now. Um, I'm gonna be optimistic and say that if we maintain this the way we are through May, and then we start to consistently play like we have to start through June, I feel like July and August. I mean, obviously July and August are, you got the end of, you're going into the dog days. It's players are tired, teams are tired, worn out, injuries happen. I'd say this. I'll say this. I'm not going to give any like bold predictions because what the Royals have been lucky with so far this season is the lack of injuries. Like, it's a big thing within the game. It can determine a lot of outcomes. It can determine your whole team dynamic a lot of times. Who you got to call up, who you got to send down, who you can allocate to certain positions and what they're capable of doing. But um, yeah, I'm not in a position to give any predictions. I'm happy with the team and where they're fighting every day. Like Frazier
Okay.
said after the game,
Oh, go ahead, finish that then about
I
Frazier.
was just saying, like Frazier said after the game, they play one game each day. They're only focused
Yeah.
on one game at a time. So I just keep it like that right now where we are. So
So then, okay, okay, instead of prediction, then we'll just say where are you at? What are you at this point? What is a failure to you with this team versus what would be a successful season to you?
successful season would be winning the division. I mean, I feel like the
Oh,
whole as
okay.
we see it
Hey,
as we
that's
see it
bold.
now. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I'll give you a little bit of something just because it's like I'd rather not sit here and not be you know confident enough to say that we're capable of it because I mean, like you just read out the standings. I mean, look at it; it's pretty well rounded right now, and all of this can change in the next month or two. But as of right now, where we stand, I mean, there's no reason that we can't. You know, what's the word? I had a word for it. There's not a reason we can't like project ourselves into that winning position. But it all comes down to health. It comes down to your pitching, your team speed, and your defense. If you and that's another thing that Frazier said tonight. With pitching and good defense, I was like, you can do a lot. A team can go quite far in the league. So if we maintain um, those three categories, I mean that's a winning ball club right there. So and that's across the board. That's just what it is. So, but I'll give you that. And my biggest failure would be it's hard to say that because our biggest failure I already had to live through last year. But I think a big failure would be like losing one of our starters to a major injury because our starting pitching has been they're the ones that have put us in a winning position every day, day in and day
Yeah.
out. So that
Well,
that that
I'll just say with, missing the playoffs, would that be a failure to you?
nah nah no
Okay, so going sub 500.
sub 500. Mm, at this point, yeah, it would be
Yeah.
kind of I because at the end of the day, like I would be happy if we didn't make the playoffs, but we were still we still had a winning record.
Yeah.
If we got a chance or we didn't, I was like I'm happy with that. But I mean, as far as just like where we were last year and the last couple of years, I'm happy with
Yeah.
just about anything right now. So
At the end of the day, the trajectory is looking really good for the Kansas City Royals. Yeah.
mm, no, for sure.
Well, I'll turn it over to you. I know you said you had a couple of notes to go over on just kind of around the league. I think we kind of
Mm,
covered the Royals pretty good.
yeah, no, for sure. I mean, yeah, it's something that kind of get your insight on it. I know the other day we talked about the whole catcher interference situation with the injury to Jermaine Contreras there in St. Louis. I kind of had taken that down. Just an interesting fight right now that we have that everybody has in the NL Central. I mean I kind of look into everything else, but like I don't know, I'm just a Central guy, so I paid attention. But it's kind of like the back and forth between the Brewers and the Cubs. I wish it was different for you on your side. Um, but just kind of how like the Cubs. I mean how basically Milwaukee came into Kansas City, lost two, and then the Cubs took first place on that day that we closed the series out on them. But that's also interesting to see the Cubs, come back with a little bit of fire. I know you hate to hear that. I mean, it's cool to see it's tight like that, and around the league for the most part. But no, other than that, I was going to say, well, what's another one? Oh, I was going to bring up maybe some of like the number one picks, kind of like what you saw on it or what you thought of them, and kind of like what we've seen so far in the season. I know obviously we're still early in it, but we've seen one come up into Baltimore, not necessarily have a good start, be sent back down, and then with the Paul Skenes kid, coming up starting today. Um, it's also good to see. I was like, I didn't know if you had any reactions to that, any takes on any of that. I mean, I know there's several others, but I know those are just two big names. And
Yeah,
then
absolutely. Well, with
yeah,
Jackson Holiday, I mean, and I was disappointed we didn't get to see him play that game we went to, but that was
yeah,
during his stretch, and I think he had somewhat of it's like a 0 for 43 stretch or something like that. Something, it was rough for sure. And
yeah, tough.
sometimes guys get brought up too quick, and I mean, there's a lot of hype behind Jackson Holiday, and rightfully so.
Mhm.
But I do think that everybody's human, and it just goes to show, obviously Jackson Holiday is the son of Matt Holiday, who's
Mhm.
if I'm not mistaken, he's a Cardinals Hall of Famer, and
Mhm.
Matt Holiday obviously had great years with the Cardinals. But with Jackson, I think that he just needs a little bit more time down in the minors, and I think that, you're going to see that in the way that teams kind of play the game, play that contract game of sending guys down, sending guys back up, kind of deal like that. We were going to see it either way, but I do think that maybe a little too early, but I don't think that it's as long as the confidence isn't lost by Jackson Holiday, I would like to see him come back up at some point, maybe wait till September call-ups, it just depends on what he does in AAA, the rest of the season, I guess. Paul Skenes, I'm very excited to see. I did watch him pitch a little bit in a AAA game earlier this year because MLB TV has been hyping the hell out of Paul Skenes, which, rightfully so, obviously. He's huge prospect, but so I did watch him actually pitch a couple times in AAA just because that every time he pitched, I swear I get like 10 notifications on my phone. Like, watch Paul Skenes,
Yeah,
watch Paul Skenes. I'm like,
yeah,
okay, I'll watch Paul Skenes. But
yeah.
so I'm excited to see what he brings. And they're playing the Cubs in his debut. So
Oh, no kidding. Oh, that's tough. That's a tough opener right there for him. I mean that's good though. But that's what you kind of want to see with these kids is that they come in and get a challenge, kind of get to see what they're worth, made what they're made of. I mean, obviously they've already proved some worth, their worth in themselves. With the picks that they've been drafted by. But yeah, it's the kid throws gas. I mean, Jackson's a good fielder. He's good. He's got a good bat. I'm not gonna sit here and give you all the bads because most of the time that's just for a little bit of time. Everybody needs some time to kind of adjust and learn the professional way. So
yeah, and it's not like something we haven't seen before, where
yeah,
somebody needs some more time to end up. I'm actually watching this video right now, Wilson Contreras. That's
oh
Yeah, it
yeah,
was
that's
nasty.
brutal.
It was very nasty. He immediately got up and ran away
Yeah,
from the
right on the
plate and
sweet
sat
side.
down. Mm-hmm.
Sweet
And
side. Bad hit it.
ooh, yeah, that's tough. JD Martinez was the one that ended up breaking his arm, and it's going to be 8 to 12 weeks, I think, that Contreras is out for. So definitely tough news for the Cardinals. When I saw that immediately, because Wilson Contreras has been absolutely phenomenal this year so far. I mean, he had really been stepping up. I mean, the Cardinals signed him to a big deal not this past off season, but the last off season, and he was kind of dubbed as the replacement for Yachty coming in, and obviously, there's big shoes to fill with Yachty. I
Right.
mean, he had a 20-year tear of dominance, and so Contreras was not great last year, and he kind of started to fill out that hopefully the money that the Cardinals are spending on him, and for this to happen, early May now, and it's kind of been a debate of was JD Martinez too far back, was Contreras too far up, and I didn't like the comments from Ollie Marmol, where he said, it's a risk we're willing to take, and that's how we're going to teach our guys. And on one hand, I get it. You're looking for a competitive advantage. You're looking to, be able to, because to frame pitches, it's easier to be closer. So I do get that on one hand, but I don't know. Ollie Marmol is in over his head as a manager right now. Is really all I have to say about that guy. But with Contreras, I think JD Martinez also probably too far back. It's one of those things that maybe next year you look at enforcing a little bit more. And, guys have been getting away with it since the beginning of time, right? You get in there and like, what's the first thing you learn about, one of the first things you learn about hitting in Little League, right? You come in and you dig that line out and, you get a little bit extra movement, get back there, and especially, I mean, guys throw gas. I mean, everybody throws gas nowadays. Like it's not unusual to see 103. I watch Ryan Helsley pitch, and that man can, he hits 10, 102, 103, 104 on the regular. Jordan Hicks as well. Jordan Hicks when he was with the Cardinals, easily throwing up to 103, 104. It's just like I remember when we like thought it was insane. Or I remember Joel Zamaya. You remember him with Detroit back in the mid
Yeah,
2000s, and I remember he hit 104, and I was like, "That's inhuman." And now it's like that's normal. It's just like
you
what?
kind of
Like
yeah, and you kind of never forget those guys that come in and that have that talent. I was like you can add like Aroldis Chapman, even though he is what he is, but it's just like you never forget those names, kind of in a sense, because it's like yeah, it's become a little bit more normal, but it's like that's not always normal. It's kind of a freak of nature in a sense to pump it down to 90 feet, you know, whatever it is, and it's special though, for sure. But the one thing is like how long can they sustain that before you know things happen? But I feel
a
like a
lot
lot
of
of
Tommy
guys so
Johns
far,
nowadays.
yeah, no kidding. So and it's also another thing too. It's just like there's a lot of guys that have dealt with the Tommy John. And shoot, they can't even touch barely 96, 95. So I think it's just all about I don't know. It's hard to say because I'm not, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a specialist, but you tend to understand, like why it happens and where it comes from, type of deal.
No, I totally feel you. I totally feel you. Well, with that, I think we kind of hit on some good topics, and we're definitely gonna have to do this again. But I really appreciate you
Hmm.
coming in and jumping on the pod, Bryce, and definitely got to talk more baseball coming up as the season continues to roll on.
Hmm. Yeah, man, most certainly. Thanks again for having me, and yeah, looking forward to it. Honestly, it's good to just kind of see where we're at in the league and give an outlet to, speak on some of the things going on. So, with a like-minded individual, that is, appreciate it.
Right? Yeah, no problem, man. Yeah, appreciate it. So again, a little bit different of a vibe on the show today, baseball, and definitely got more baseball coming this year. Last year, I kind of started on it, writing on the Substack, papashowknows.substack.com. Wrote a few blogs leading into the year about the World Baseball Classic, the Cardinals, just baseball in general, and didn't really follow through with it too much last year. So hopefully this year and we'll get a little bit more baseball coverage for you guys on here. So if you enjoyed the baseball coverage, smash that like button. Go ahead and subscribe, follow along, and hit that bell so you know whenever when we post a video up on YouTube as well as Spotify. Follow along. Yeah, smash that follow button, and as well on Apple Podcasts. Anywhere you get your podcast, you can get the Papa Schro Knows podcast as well as on Substack, as I just mentioned. And again, appreciate if you listened and followed along the entire podcast. And without further ado, I guess it's not Go Chiefs this time. I don't really know what to throw in an outro, but again, appreciate you guys for listening. And until next time, we'll be talking more baseball hopefully here in the next week or so.